All right, Tad, thanks very much. A lot to get to in sports. Coming up, we'll look back at what was probably the longest rain delay in Virginia Tech football history and why a 17-point comeback was not enough to beat Purdue. Plus, we'll recap an emotional roller coaster of an afternoon in Charlottesville where Virginia and James Madison met for the first time on the gridiron in 4 decades. It's all next in sports.
No, WFXR Sports.
There was a ton of adversity and a ton of tough decisions about finishing this thing and getting back out there, and a lot of work from a lot of people. And there was so much going on behind the scenes to play that game. The patience that our players had and our coaches had, it was a long day for everybody.
You can say that again. Brent Pry commenting on what ended up being a 5-hour and 27-minute delay caused by a storm that dumped more than 4 inches of rain. The game against Purdue kicked off at around 12:15, didn't go final until about 9 o'clock at night, and in the end, Virginia Tech suffering its first loss of the season despite coming back from a 17-point deficit in the second quarter. The Hokies scoring all their points in the 15 minutes before halftime, with Grant Wells throwing for nearly 250 yards and 2 touchdowns, but the offense had trouble running the ball, limited to just 11 yards on the ground, a far cry from the 109 yards made against ODU in the opener. In the end, Hudson Card's 1-yard touchdown run in the fourth made the difference for the Boilermakers.
Hats off to those guys. They played a nice football game. And that's a group that was in the Big Ten championship last year. There's some kids on that football team that know how to win. Some kids with experience and size, and some good wins under their belts. We got to be able to run the ball better than that. We got to find ways to run the ball. If it can't be inside, we got to run it outside. We got to be a little bit more creative there.
By the way, those 11 yards marks the 5th worst rushing performance since 1987. Saturday proved to be an emotional roller coaster for fans at Scott Stadium in Charlottesville as they witnessed the first meeting in 40 years between relative FBS newcomer James Madison and the University of Virginia. First, a tribute to Devin Chandler, Deshaun Perry, and Lavelle Davis Jr. in a special pregame ceremony ahead of UVA's home opener. And then shooting survivor Mike Hollins finding the end zone not once, but twice. However, it wasn't enough as the Dukes staged a 4th quarter comeback. It was capped off by Jordan McLeod's touchdown throw to Kaylon Black. JMU leaving Seville victorious 36-35. And WFXR's Jermaine Farrell recapping that emotional day from Scott Stadium.
Devin, Lavelle, and
Still to come, week number 1 in the National Football League saw new eras begin for both Washington and Carolina. We'll see how both those teams did in their respective openers when sports continues. NFL week number 1. We'll start with the Panthers visiting the Falcons, and our first look at Bryce Young at quarterback for Carolina. The top pick of the draft threw a pick in the first quarter, but he bounced back in the second, connecting with Hayden Hurst for his first NFL touchdown pass that tied the game at 7, but it wasn't enough as Atlanta goes on to win 24-10. Meanwhile, the Commanders, under new management, taking on the Cardinals at FedEx Field. Third quarter, Washington down by 6 when Montez Sweat doesn't break a sweat, forcing the fumble. Daron Payne with the recovery. Washington in business. Fourth quarter now. Sam Howell, who escapes the pocket and scores on the QB keeper as the Josh Harris era begins with a victory. Commanders 20, Cardinals 16. It was billed as one of the most anticipated commitment announcements of the year, and in an era where the nature of this news is usually released on social media, Salem linebacker Chris Cole making his decision in a relatively old school fashion by picking a hat. This was the moment at 202 Social House in Roanoke when Chris Cole, surrounded by family, friends, coaches, and teammates, picked the University of Georgia as the home for his collegiate career, choosing the Bulldogs over 5 other schools, including Virginia Tech.
I say it's like the greatest moment of my life. I always dreamed of this, and now to have it happen, I'm super blessed and just thankful for this. I say this decision, I just always felt it in my heart, like to go there. Just the players and the coaches, I really just like fit in with them really. And I feel like if I went there, I'd be just like best developed really and get a great education.
And Cole said he didn't make his final decision until today when he came back from a recruiting visit at Tennessee. Congrats to him. A few quick hits to end our Sunday night sportscast. Major League pitcher Zach Kelly had his best outing to conclude his week-long rehab assignment with the Salem Red Sox. The pride of Daleville went 3 up and 3 down, including 2 strikeouts and a ground out in the lone inning pitched against the Mudcats this afternoon. Unfortunately, Salem's season finale wiped out due to rain, so the Red Sox finishing the summer with a 55-72 record. Over at Kansas Speedway, the second race of NASCAR's round of 16 ending with Tyler Reddick crossing the finish line first to win the Kansas 400. Reddick earning his second trip to victory lane this season and, more importantly, booking a spot in the round of 12, joining Kyle Larson, who won last week at Darlington. Next week is an elimination race at Bristol Motor Speedway. And the U.S. Open concluding with Novak Djokovic picking up his 24th Grand Slam title following a straight sets victory over Daniil Medvedev. And at the age of 36, Djokovic becoming the oldest U.S. Open champion. And that comes after Coco Gauff became one of the youngest to lift the women's trophy on Saturday. The 19-year-old winning her first major with a 3-set triumph over Aryna Sabalenka. I was rooting so hard for Coco Gauff.
Hear it in your voice, David. I was like, listen to how his excitement just went through the roof.
Yeah, I may have showed up a little late to Virginia Tech football's restart after that rain delay because I just had to see Coco Gauff finish it off. And I think that's going to be the first of many Grand Slam titles for that young woman.
All right, we'll keep an eye out. Thanks, David.